In 1980, the average first-time buyer was 27. In 2024, it's 35. In London, it's nearly 38. Back then, it took just 3 years to save for a deposit. Today, it's almost 18. Unless you inherited, got parental help, or earned 6 figures, right now, buying a home feels impossible. And even if you tick those boxes, location and living costs might still kill your chances. Ownership. The very thing Britain built its identity on is no longer a milestone, it's a luxury. But this isn't just a housing crisis, it's a system built to reward those who got in early and quietly lock out everyone else. Let me show you how it works. For decades, we've been told the post-war period was a golden age for home ownership. In many ways, it was. In the 1950s, you could buy an average house for 4 times your annual salary on a single income. Most people didn't own their own homes. They lived in affordable social housing or private rentals. The real change began in the 1980s. Margaret Thatcher's Right to Buy scheme allowed 2.2 million council tenants to purchase their homes at discounts of up to 70%. Suddenly, home ownership became not just possible, but profitable. Your council house bought for $15,000 in 1985 could be worth $180,000 by 2005. The thing is, those houses were never replaced. Social housing stock fell from 6.5 million homes in 1979 to just 3.9 million by 2019. The ladder to home ownership wasn't just hard to climb, but now the first few steps had been completely removed. The 1980s didn't change who could buy homes, it changed how you could buy them. Before 1980, building societies dominated mortgage lending with strict rules: 20% deposit, proof of stable income, and maximum borrowing of 2.5 times your annual salary. Then came the mortgage revolution. Banks entered the market. Interest-only and self-certification mortgages became common practice. By the early 2000s, people I know were getting 110% mortgages. But the problem was, household debt as a share of income nearly tripled from 60% in the 1960s to 158% by 2008. People weren't getting richer, they were borrowing more. By the mid-2000s, Northern Rock was offering 125% mortgages. House prices had doubled between 1995 and 2007.
The signs were everywhere, but now it's official, we are in a recession. The research group that makes that determination made it today and said the recession actually started a year ago.
When the global recession hit, house prices fell by 20%. Mortgage lending froze. The Bank of England cut interest rates to 0.5%. And quantitative easing pumped $895 billion into the financial system. But here's the thing, the money didn't go to ordinary savers or workers, it went to banks, pension funds, and asset managers. While your savings accounts paid 0.1% interest on your savings, professional investors borrowed at near zero rates to buy buy-to-let properties. The number of privately rented homes jumped from 2.8 million in 2007 to 4.6 million within 10 years. These weren't small-time landlords, they were institutional investors, treating British homes like any other asset class.
Today I can announce Help to Buy. The deposits demanded for a mortgage these days have put home ownership beyond the great majority who can't turn to their parents for a contribution.
The scheme would help first-time buyers with deposits and guaranteed mortgages up to 95%. Now it sounds generous, but in practice it was like pouring petrol on a house fire. The National Audit Office found that over 60% of Help to Buy users could have bought their homes without government help. New build properties eligible for the scheme commanded premiums of 15 to 20% over comparable properties. By 2021, Help to Buy supported 384,000 purchases worth £78 billion. Average house prices rose 43% over the same period. The scheme, designed to make homes more affordable, made them more expensive.
The UK has fallen into its largest recession on record because of the coronavirus lockdown, contracting by more than 20% between April and June in the biggest slump of any major global economy.
Just when it seemed the housing market might be cooling, COVID arrived. The government's response of lockdowns, furlough and stamp duty holiday turbocharged house prices again. With offices closed and remote work normalised, people suddenly needed more space. The stamp duty holiday saved buyers up to £15,000 on house purchases. Mortgage rates fell to historic lows, but the real catalyst was the change in savings. With restaurants closed and holidays cancelled, household savings jumped by $180 billion in 2020. House prices rose 10.8% in 2021, the fastest growth in nearly 2 decades. The average UK house price hit £270,000. making home ownership even more distant for those who hadn't already climbed the ladder. I know what you're thinking. If house prices are so unaffordable, then who's buying them? First, there's inherited wealth. The value of inherited estates has risen from 4.2 billion in 1995 to 15.1 billion in 2020. Most of this wealth flows back into property. If you inherit 100,000 while renting, what do? You buy a house. Parental gifts have more than doubled since 2007. The truth is, without family money, home ownership has become virtually impossible for ordinary workers. Then there's the institutional buyers. They now compete directly with families for homes. These investors don't need mortgages, they buy with cash. Lloyds Banking Group launched a fund to buy rental properties. Legal & General are investing heavily in build-to-rent schemes. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, has allocated millions to UK property. The standard response to expensive housing or lack thereof is simple: build more homes. The government has repeatedly promised 300,000 new homes annually. They've never delivered it. In 2023, England completed 230,000 new homes, the lowest figure since 2012. But even if we hit the target, it might not matter. Building costs have more than doubled since 2000. Then there's planning, but the real problem isn't supply, it's demand. When pension funds and foreign investors compete with families for homes, supply increases can't keep pace with the financialized demand. And this brings us to the fundamental problem. You see, fixing the housing market would require making existing homeowners poorer and existing homeowners vote. Any policy that would meaningfully reduce house prices, land tax, planning reform, and restrictions on buy-to-lets would also reduce the wealth of existing homeowners. The Lib Dems fit this contradiction perfectly. Nationally, they support building 380,000 homes a year, but locally, they win seats by opposing new developments. You see, it's politically easier to promise new homes than actually build them where people live. But for people that don't own, the alternative is getting worse. Private rental costs now consume 34% of average household income, well above what experts consider affordable. But here's my thing. Much of this rent is subsidised by the taxpayer. Housing benefit payments to private landlords have risen from 4 billion in 2008 to 11 billion in 2023. The government spends more on housing benefit than it would cost to build 200,000 social homes annually. Instead of owning assets, we're renting them back from private investors at public expense. And this is the system we've built. Young people pay inflated rents to landlords who use that money to buy more properties. First-time buyers compete with cash-rich investors, and families stretch finances for homes that previous generations bought with ease. The average homeowner over 65 sits on £300,000 of housing wealth. The average renter under 35 has $2,500 in savings. But the consequences extend beyond housing. Young people delay having children because they can't afford family homes. They commute longer distances for work and save less for retirement. The truth is, economic uncertainty about housing is reshaping fundamental life decisions. In the 1990s, owning a home was a milestone. Today, it's a dividing line between those who got in early and those locked out by design. You were told to work hard, save, and buy a home, but the game changed. The truth is, if you don't already own the ladder, you're just paying rent to climb someone else's.